Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen. Today's topic is quite an interesting one. It is something that I'm quite passionate about, and for whatever reason, I just haven't given it enough airtime. I've spoken about it a little bit before, and I also talk about it a lot in my membership, my Manifesting Muslimah membership that you can check out if you want to look at that. And I also talk a lot about it with my private clients, and it's been a topic that's been coming up for me throughout the years as a coach for Muslim women, and is something that I've noticed isn't just a problem, issue, whatever you want to call it, for women in specific places. It is around the world. Like, I've literally worked with women from all continents of the world at this point, and everywhere women seem to have this same issue. I don't want to call it a problem, but like an issue or a little bit of a different mindset that kind of holds them back from doing something. And that is, of course, talking to God, making more dua, and then just generally just speaking more to God, not necessarily in a dua, but just to talk to God. And I am so surprised sometimes, I have been very surprised in the past. And at this point, I'm not even surprised anymore. It's just like, hey, we need to normalize this, because it is such a big issue for a lot of women to get into the habit of just speaking to Allah, which I'm not sure what to read into it. Well, I kind of do actually, but it could trigger some people. So, if you're of a very sensitive nature, spiritually, religiously inclined, then, well, first of all, why are you following me? Because I am not very sensitive on these subjects. But also, this might not be the episode for you, or at least, just be aware that I might say some things that could be quite triggering to you. So anyway, here's what it is. A lot of people, and I actually don't think it's just women only, but obviously being a female coach, I see it from women predominantly, is that they have an issue when it comes to just talking more to God. I would always get like this reply from women when I'm coaching them that it feels awkward, or they don't know what to say, or they don't pray, so how could they make dua, or they are flawed, they have sins, they're not perfect, or they already have a lot of things to be grateful for, so it would feel greedy for them to ask for more. And just in general, that they feel awkward sitting down and talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which I don't think I've actually ever had that feeling within myself. I've never actually felt it awkward to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think that's the thing that makes that was the surprise for me, that other people felt that. And I realized that a lot of this issue comes from the way that we are taught at a young age to approach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our creator. He's the the creator of the entire cosmos. He holds our lives in his hands, if he has hands, in his metaphorical hands. This is our Lord, the Almighty. And so how can we just la-di-da come talk to him in like that kind of way where it's like just so casual? We just sit down and talk to him whenever we want to. But the truth is that we can. There's no rules around that. Like, we're actually encouraged to speak to Allah more and more and more and more. And a lot of people will say that, but yet somehow there's like this idea that you have to do it in a specific way, that you only do it after salah. There's traditions around it, all of these things. And in truth, there's good etiquette around how to make a good dua. There's good, etiquette and traditions around it. Like, there's some guidelines on how you can, make your dua better, how you can speak to Allah better, all of these things. But these are etiquettes and guidelines. These are not rules. And so when we want to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't have to do all of these things if we don't know how. And we don't have to speak in Arabic. We can speak in English. You can speak in whatever language, German, Chinese. You can speak in whatever language you want to speak to Allah, because Allah is not bound by Arabic. It's not like he's like, listen, if you want to be Muslim, you have to learn Arabic. That was the language that he spoke in when he sent the Quran down, that was the language that it came out in. But that's not because Allah is limited to Arabic. So you can speak to Allah in any language that you want. You can use whatever words you want. You can take whatever approach you want, as long as you're coming to Him understanding that this is the Creator, the Almighty, and that you're coming as His humble servant and, just sharing your day with Him, sharing your worries and concerns. Here's the thing that I noticed when I started reading the Quran is the amount of times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually mentions in one way or another, and I wish I could sit here, I'm not that person that can just quote the Quran just willy-nilly. I'm sorry, I'm not. My brain has enough time trying to remember the names of my chickens. Honestly, I just can't. There's no space right now in my head for anything new or to hold space for anything, and if that is offensive to you, I've already warned you. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I said, mentions several times in one way or another the way that He wants us to approach Him more, the way that He wants us to talk to Him more and more, that He is ready when we call for Him, that He is the best confidant that we'll have, confidant, I don't know how to say that word, that we can have. He's the best friend we can have. He's constantly reassuring us throughout the Quran in ways that is basically telling us, speak to me, come to me, talk to me, confide in me. If you've got worries, concerns, speak to me. I'm the best person you can speak to. I'm best person, you know what I mean, the best entity, the best divine thing you can speak to. But that's basically the whole thing throughout the Quran, is just Allah saying so many times to us, speak to me, I'm here for you, call on me, I'll come to you, take one step towards me, I'll come to you at speed. And there is nowhere in the Quran where Allah says you have to be perfect, you have to be without sin, you have to be clean when you come to me, you have to be without any faults. There's nothing. Even wudu, there's rules around salah and you have to be in salah in a clean position, but you don't when you have to speak to Allah. You can lay in bed at night before you go to sleep and be like, oh, I'm having a really difficult time getting my mind to be still so I can find rest. Okay, let me just speak a little bit to Allah and share my concerns and worries with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then go to sleep. You can be on your way to work, waiting for the bus, and just be like, oh gosh, today's a hard day, I'm really struggling to get myself out and about, and I really don't want to go into work. Speak to Allah. You could be sitting with your family having concerns. Maybe there's financial issues. Maybe you're having an argument with a best friend. Anything, at any moment, you are allowed to turn around and speak to Allah. And we need to make this so much more normal for us, and we need to spread the word more that it is normal for us and absolutely acceptable for us to turn to Allah and speak to Allah whenever we want to or feel the need to. And here's the thing about it, is that it is so helpful for us as well, because number one, it really strengthens our personal and intimate connection between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is, if you ask me at least, and you're allowed to of course disagree with it, but this is what keeps you a Muslim. This is what strengthens your deen, is your personal connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making that bond more special and unique, so that you're not a Muslim for the community. You're not Muslim because your parents want you to be. You're not Muslim because you were raised Muslim. You're Muslim because you want to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the closer you are to Allah, the more you want to, do the things to make Him proud of you as His servant, right? You want to be in good favor with Him because you love Him and you have this personal bond and attachment with Him. So that's obviously the first thing that I will say, and again, you're allowed to disagree and think that, you strengthen your deen in better ways than that. But this is my personal take, and this is also my podcast. So you can start your own if you disagree. But absolutely talking to Allah and sharing everything that's going on in your life with Allah, even though He knows what's going on. This is not, you talking to Allah is not for Allah's sake. It is for your sake. And which brings me to my second point and why you should be doing it, because it eases our hearts. It makes us feel less lonely. The things that we feel like we can't say to the people around us, sometimes, when we're feeling like we have to hold it all inside because we can't say it to people and people are going to judge and whatever and whatnot, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will just listen. He'll just listen. And if you're asking for the forgiveness, He won't even judge you for it. Isn't that beautiful? Like, I'm just going to say that again. Like, you can have done something, lied to someone or whatever, and you can be like, oh, I feel really bad about it, but I can't tell these people about it because then they're going to judge me, and I've come a long way, and so I don't want them to judge me on my past because my past is faulty, whatever. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in your past, and he'll still call for you to talk to him. And when you talk to him and you're, genuinely, asking for his forgiveness for whatever it is that you might have done or whatever is in your past, Allah won't judge you for it. He'll be like, okay, that's done. It's forgiven. Khalas. That's it. I still love you. I'm giving you a second chance. Here's your chance. You're talking to me. So it makes us feel less lonely. It makes us feel better about ourselves as well in our effort, in our religion, because we're speaking directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not taking it through the middleman, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, make the dua for me, and I don't know if you can hear that, if my microphone is making funny sounds. I need to buy a new microphone. I apologize for that. Anyway, the point is that we're not going through other people, asking the imam to make dua, asking our friends to make dua. We're the ones coming directly to Allah, and we're making the dua, and we're speaking to dua about our problems, our lives, things like that, directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And not having that middleman forces us as well to come a little bit closer to him. 1 second, I'm just going to see what's wrong with this microphone. 1 second. All right, I'm back. I know I don't even have to announce that I'm going and then I'm coming back, but I just, you know what it is, because I actually quite like that that these things don't go perfectly, but I'm still doing it anyway. That's probably something for a different podcast episode, because a lot of us are like, oh, if I have to do it, I want to do it perfectly. And this is just another little example of how you don't even have to do things perfectly. You just show up as the thing that you're trying to push out there, and the people who will get it, and those who don't will not, and they're not your people, so move on. Anyway, that was a little detour into something completely different. But anyway, so as I was saying is that, the more that we speak with Allah, the less lonely we feel. We'll connect much better with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we're speaking directly to Allah. We're eliminating the middleman, which again is, another, I don't know if the word that comes to mind is obstacle. And I mean it both as obstacle, but I also am is obstacle really the right word? But it kind of is, when we feel like we can't speak directly to our creator, to the Almighty, it feels like, oh, I'm not good enough to approach Allah, so I need an imam to approach him for me, instead of just asking Allah directly for guidance. You don't need a middleman. You are 100% allowed to approach our creator directly, speak to him directly. And I would definitely recommend that you do a lot more of that. Okay, so I feel like I've kind of spoken a little bit about this subject. So what I want to end this with is, oh my goodness, can you go away with your cock-a-doodle-2 in? They always have to cock-a-doodle-2 when I've sat down to record a podcast. So I want to leave you with some advice on how you can get started with this, because I know that it's so much easier said than done. If you do feel awkward about it, or if there was some, do we call this spiritual abuse when I don't know, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch to call it spiritual abuse, but at least this distancing when we were raised between ourselves and Allah, that it's this, Allah is this thing that we can't really approach in our normal faulty ways, and we have to make a big hullabaloo around sitting down and making dua. Okay, so here's the thing that I want to say. First tip is speak in whatever language that suits you. Don't feel obliged to make your dua in Arabic if you don't know how to make the dua in Arabic. Don't feel like you have to I know there's all these etiquettes. If you already know how to speak to Allah and everything, and you're doing it regularly, and you feel like, hey, I kind of want to up it and do it in Arabic, of course you can learn in these things, but it has to come from the desire for wanting to do it. But don't do it because you think that your dua is going to be heard more because you do these things, because Allah hears all of us. Okay, so speak in the language that you feel comfortable speaking in, and use your words. I think one of the things is that a lot of people say, well, how do I sort of say it? And I say, just say it. It's like, yeah, but I sound stupid. But no, you kind of don't. You're using the words that you speak. Why would you try and elevate your wordings. Like, you're not a dictionary. Just say the words that you need to say. If you say I feel frustrated, then say I feel frustrated. You know, if you feel angry and disappointed, say I feel angry and disappointed. You don't have to, you know, cut corners. Not cut corners. What is it called? Run around corners. Is that the saying? Oh, good Lord. I don't know what the saying is. The thing where it feels like, oh, I have to like try and make it sound more impressive, or I have to make myself sound more impressive, and I also at the same time can't be completely honest. So if I'm angry, I'll just say I'm displeased or something. Like, no, say you're angry, because that's what you feel. So, you know, say what you feel to Allah, because He already knows what you feel. So one thing that I said actually just the other day to one of my clients on a one-on-one call was, Allah can spot hypocrisy, right? So if you're not just saying what's in your heart, like, He already knows what's in there. Who are you trying to hide it from? Just say it. Like, it's totally fine. And that includes like the bad, the ugly, all that stuff. Say it, and say it the way that you feel comfortable saying it. He's not going to judge you on that. Of course not. Like, clearly approach, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with respect, because He's your Lord, but like, still be honest, because He already knows what's going on, and He will know hypocrisy when He sees it. Which brings me to the second tip, which I think a lot of people like feel like they have to do as well, which is like that whole pageant dua. Like, sorry, oh my gosh, I've just coined it, pageant dua. I don't know if anybody else has coined it, pageant dua, but it's the one where you're like, you're too afraid to ask and say the things that you want to say and ask for. So you start just kind of like making dua for everything and everyone around you, and then just hoping that Allah will be like, oh, I'm so impressed with her answer. She's going to get everything she wants. I'm sorry. It's always it just makes me laugh, because it's that like hypocrisy almost of like, girl, like, Allah knows what you want. Just ask for it. Like, and while it's nice to also pray for other people and things, don't just make it into a pageant thing. Like, oh, Ya Rab, and peace for all people. And, you know, that person that I really hate, you know, dear God, open their heart. No, I'm petty. Okay, you can of course make all of these prayers if you mean it, but if you don't mean it, like, why are you wasting your breath? Allah, like, if the dua is not sincere, like, or if there's something else that's like, hey, I also want this, you know, yesterday how I prayed for, you know, all the people in my family and all of these things, good. Today I'm not going to keep praying for them. You've already heard that prayer. Let me pray for me. Like, let me tell you what I want. Dear God, like, can I please have some of this? Like, I think I'm a good person. I'm a decent person. Why have I not got this yet? So, you know, don't do the pageant dua. Don't play coy. Don't think you're gaining points by not being honest in your duas. Allah sees hypocrisy. And that includes the thing where it's like we're trying to like impress by thinking we're saying all the right things without actually saying the things that we truly want, and being like, Ya Rab, I know you can see right through all of this. Okay. So that's the second thing I would say. And then the third thing I would say is start today. Don't wait. Like, just do it today. If you listen to this podcast right now, when you're finished with it, go ahead and talk to Allah. You don't even have to say anything spectacular. It doesn't have to be like one of those where you have to cry your heart out or anything. It can just be like, Ya Rab, I'm here. Like, just want to say thank you, and I'm going to start talking to you more, just so you know. All right, that's it. Thank you for listening. Bye. Like, it can be so simple. It doesn't have to be spectacular and epic and heartbreaking, and like, it doesn't have to be all of these things. It can just be a regular conversation, just checking in, saying, Ya Rab, I'm still here. I'm still following you. You're still my guide, my Lord, my everything. And I just wanted just to say hello, and I'll check in with you again when there's news, or, hey, I'm feeling really good today, Ya Rab. Thank you so much for giving me today as well. Like, oh, I found a penny. Thank you. Yeah, I found a penny. I love pennies. I'm going to put it in my penny jar. Like, whatever. It could be anything. So those are my like little 3 tips on the way out of this podcast. So yeah, let me know the feedback. I actually would love to hear your feedback on this, because I have, as I said, throughout like my 10 years, coming up to 10 years in like a few months of working with Muslim women from all around the world, this is, as I said, one of the things that I keep seeing so much of, this like hesitancy and fear around speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'd love to hear your take on it. I'd love to hear your opinion, and I'd love to hear what you're going to talk to Allah about. Like, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be anything perfect, but like what's it called, personal and private. You can just say, hey, I just spoke to Allah and it was really good, it was nice, whatever, or whatever concerns or whatever might come up for you. Anyway, that is where I'm going to leave it today. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode. Don't forget that if you have any suggestions for podcast episodes, topics, anything like that you'd like me to talk about, that you can just reach out to me, preferably over on Instagram, because I can reply with voice notes, because I don't really like texting. And let me know what you'd like to hear more of on this podcast. But until next time, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.